Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast, the show where we review oddball movies, have oddball discussions, and occasionally take questions from you, the oddball fans.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Albert Berg, and the oddball movie for this week is Frequently Asked Questions About Time Travel. Where does it land on our long title-o-meter, Tony?
I'd say it's about a 7.5. It's not quite Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood, but it's pretty long.
I've just like, so I'm trying to think, I'm the pretty thing that lives in the house was pretty long. I'm trying to think of the different ones that have had real long titles. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. So Frequently Asked Questions about Time Travel by Character especially is up there because it has some long words in that title.
Yeah, I mean, you got like a full 5 letters in some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I guess 6 for travel.
Just so people know, like, this is the kind of movie review that we do. We don't actually talk about the movie at all. We just review the title and how long it is. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.
So this is a movie about 3 loser friends who meet at a pub one night to discuss their recent misfortunes. The most notable name in this cast is Chris O'Dowd, who has been fired from his job at a kiddie rec center kind of
It's more
experience.
like a Disneyland type place.
A real cheap Disneyland.
Yeah, like where he's basically being a space ranger, and he traumatizes a bunch of kids.
Drops an F-bomb in front of a bunch of little English kids. Yep. Starts them all crying. Not because of the F-bomb, but just because he's like, are you ready to go out there and lay your lives on the line for the galactic good?
Getting all pumped up, you know?
He gets fired, and they're lamenting his recent job loss and thinking about their own just sort of miserable lot in life, wishing that they had a time machine, and thinking about having delusions of grandeur about how they're going to change the world. One of their buddies goes into the loo, walks out, and all the people in the bar are dead. The loo is the English word for the bathroom, by the way.
I'm sure nobody knew that.
I'm getting super posh in here.
You're so cultured, Albert.
I know. I'm an
might as well be
Anglophile.
yogurt.
I know all about that.
Whatever. You're closer to yogurt than an Anglophile.
So they do the sort of bathroom hokey pokey with time travel for a little bit and skip around through different periods of time. And I thought that this as a time travel movie was actually really smartly executed. The way that they uncover different facts about the past and like how that relates to them and their dilemma. I found that to be cool. I mean, a lot of times when Hollywood or anybody does a time travel movie, it's sort of like, I don't know. Have you seen that show, The Legends of Tomorrow, Tony?
I haven't. Like, you've referred to it a lot, but I never saw that one.
They do that thing where, like, if you change something in the past, like, it takes time, quote unquote, to get to the future, which doesn't, like, there's some kind of meta time outside of time that time travels through time.
How would you know if that's not real? Let's get some meta time up in here.
Anyway, they don't do that in this. It's not like that.
Just like the instant flip switch type thing.
Yeah, if something in the past changes, the future changes instantly because there's no time for time to travel through. That's how I feel about it anyway. Nobody has a time machine to test it, but it just doesn't. I hate that trope, Tony. I hate it so much. Like, I'll deal with it. Doctor Who does it, and it's okay in Doctor Who because Doctor Who's dumb. Right? But I wanted Legends of Tomorrow to be a little smarter about that, and they just kind of, whatever is convenient for the plot, they're waving their hands around and like, this is it. This is not that kind of movie, though. They're very much on board with, like, strict time travel rules. When stuff changes, it, changes for everybody. And I like that aspect of it a lot. I also really respected how much they did with an obviously small budget. I mean, this is not a one-room time travel story, okay?
Yeah, it's not quite in a bottle, but it's also not that far removed from being in a bar in a backyard the whole time.
Yes, I'd say 90% of the movie takes place in that one location, and they get a lot out of it. And they do get to travel around a little bit and allude to things sort of off-screen happening, but it was, you could tell that they were working on an extreme budget. And I felt like that as a movie coming out of that kind of thing, it worked really well.
I definitely think it did too. I actually started this movie probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and I couldn't get past the scene where they were talking in the mascot outfits before, because I just thought it was going to be like a good travel movie, and like I just wasn't feeling it at the time. So I actually started remembering checking this out and kind of had bad thoughts about it, and then actually found that I did like it a lot. It was really weird going into it having thought that I would hate it beforehand.
Well, it starts off kind of, I mean, these guys especially, they're having their conversation about, why are we dinosaurs advertising dino burgers? It doesn't make sense. Like, why would dinosaurs ask you, and the other guy's like, just shut up and stop thinking. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, don't get too deep into the role.
of cartoon plush dinosaur man, yes. So I thought that it's stupid, but it kind of sets up these characters and who they are to each other, and I that worked for me, but it wasn't like what sold me on the movie. It was really there's the moment the movie hooked me was when he goes and comes back and everybody in the bar is dead.
Yeah,
and you have no context for why that would be or how this has happened. Is it like some gang shootout or like what? Like, you know that time travel's happened. I mean, you know you're watching a movie called Frequently Asked Questions about time travel. So that's a thing that's going to be coming up in the movie. But to see all of that come out, it's just a great like shock to the system. And then the rest of the movie is kind of unfolding towards how did this happen and what does this mean for these three characters?
I also like the idea of a slightly incompetent time traveling, like time travel fixer.
Yes.
So, like, you have, what's her name? Anna Faris?
Anna Faris, yes.
Yeah, Anna Faris. She's basically playing this rather adorable, like, I guess you would call it sort of like a Time Lord type character where she's trying to fix a leak in time, but she really doesn't know that much about what she's doing. She's just kind of on probation and working on it.
There's so much great about that character from just a character point of view. She, like, you see her go through this arc because you're meeting her at different points, like not like vastly different points in her life. Okay, she doesn't show up as like an old lady, but she's like, oh, it's been like 6 months for me. I got a promotion. I took some of your advice and like started acting like I know what I'm doing. And then she says something really confident, and he's like, wait, did you just say that really confidently because I told you to say stuff confidently? Yeah. But it's also just from a like chemistry perspective, Anna Faris is super adorable, and you totally are like, I'm on board with Chris O'Dowd falling for this lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason why you said Chris Pratt is because that is Chris Pratt's wife.
Yes, and she's funny. She bounces off them well. Kind of holds her own. And as the person who knows more than anybody about what's going on, although she doesn't know everything, her coming in and kind of having that, like, just, I'm from the future. No one's going to believe you because you always talk about time travel and you're a dork. Have fun.
Yeah, that first scene was particularly effective for me. Like, the first scene where they actually had their interaction is what I'm, like, what you were talking about, damn it.
That's fine. I'm sorry. I was taking a drink of my coffee, and I figured I'd let you keep going with that thought. Speaking of the super adorbs thing, like, he's got that chip bag in his mouth, and she does the pull on the chip bag and gives him a kiss on the cheek thing. I was like, oh, man. That's some flirting right there. That's some high-quality flirting. I'm on board with that flirt.
Is that even considered flirting at that point?
She was... What would you call that, Tony? I mean, granted, I would never do that, like, in the other direction, but
I don't know what flirting actually is. I'm terrible at it. Like, I don't understand it. Like, so, yeah.
I think flirting is just coming on to, like, it just be like, hey, how are you?
Yeah, because I would have considered the whole,
super personable to people that you don't know.
Yeah, I would have thought the chip thing was a come on. So,
yeah.
I have no idea. This is me having, poor personal interactions with other people.
I'm qualifying it as flirting in the sense that at that moment, she's not, like, angling for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's there to talk to him. She's
just having fun.
She's kind of got the hots for him, but she's also like, he's in the past, and I really don't have anything in common with him, and, like, he's sort of a doofus, so I'm just going to make this move, and nobody will believe him. That's where I'm coming from. It's not her like, I am going to have this man as my soulmate with this chip move and kissing him on the cheek. She comes across as much more playful than that.
Yeah.
So, qualify it however you want to, Tony. If you have advice for flirting for Tony, send it to @tsouthcott on Twitters.
I'm just gonna get messages like, "Don't be creepy." It's like, yeah, okay. Thanks.
I think that the main thing with flirting is you got to have confidence in yourself. You got to walk into that, like, whatever that situation is, just being like, I'm the coolest thing in this room, and I don't even care what happens between us here. It's just like, whatever. I'm just gonna be friendly and
like, whatever, man.
Like, whatever, man. That's my idea. That's why I think that I worry sometimes that people are thinking that I'm flirting, because I have that attitude all the time. And because I am the coolest thing in the room, so you can accept that or not, and I'm just gonna go on about my life. I got nothing to lose. I'm married with 2 kids, so it's not like I'm not angling for anything. I'm just letting you guys know.
It's not cockiness. He's just convinced.
That's Al's dating advice minute, a regular feature here on the Human Echoes podcast. But, and I like the way it all resolved. I like, too, that these guys are... The whole arc of this movie is them being losers and looking for that thing that's going to catapult them to stardom. And the crux, the sort of pivotal final moments of the movie is them trying to... dealing with, do I want to be famous or do I want to live my life? And that's a real... like, it's presented in kind of a cartoonish way. Right, the villain there is very much like sort of over the top, but on the other hand, she has a real dilemma for them. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you'll die here, but you will be famous forever if you accept your fate, and if you don't, nobody's gonna remember you for anything. And
I was trying to figure out if they were like giving an allegory for selling out. Like, I didn't know. Like, I was trying to figure out exactly what they were pushing at there. Like, if there's something a little bit deeper. I
thought the idea was just that, especially because they see the scope of time, right? Like, they go to a place where the world is in ruin, essentially. And the other guy also, like, sees either the far past or the far future, and, like, the ground level's different, which I'm sad we didn't get to see that, but it was really cool to hear about it in story form, where he's just like, I was there for, like, 2 years trying to get back up to the door, because the Earth shifted a little bit. That was an interesting turn of events. But yeah, so they've seen the whole of human history, and they see themselves become famous because of this idea that we never see them have, right? They don't... The way the logic of the movie works, they can't ever express it anyway, so we don't get to see whatever this great idea is. But they, if they had gone through with their great idea, we would have seen... they could have been famous and remembered forever, and they see what that would have been like. In the future, they see what it means to be remembered by all of human history.
Having parties with you and everything. It's like giant montages on the wall, or not montages, murals and everything.
Right. So that was what I thought the crux of the thing was. It wasn't necessarily about any particular art or selling out to me. It was about what... is it important to live your life, or is it important to be remembered? And the choice that they have to make, I think, because of all the time travel shenanigans that we see, is set up as a real effective choice.
Whereas I think that it would have been a better choice to be remembered.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is it's not invalid for you to think that. Although yeah. It's interesting to me, and whenever there's a movie that has all single people, it kind of, as a parent, I think, like, this would play completely different for them. If any one of these people had children or, like, a significant other that they were living with and had, commitments to, the fact that they get to be these freewheeling guys who can just jump into an adventure and let's go see the future, it doesn't matter. Like, that is something that doesn't track with me. It's not that it's not a problem with the movie. It's just that I don't, like, the movie would play out completely differently if you had somebody who was tied down in some way.
Yeah. Whereas we've talked about this before, where if there's like a magic door in front of you where like you have the choice of leaving everything behind to go on like an adventure and be the hero, you don't turn that down. You just go through the damn door. And for you, that's like an appalling idea.
It's not, I just need to know if I'm going to come back.
Probably not.
Okay, well then I have two children and a wife that will not, I mean, I'm not saying they won't survive without me, but it's going to be exponentially more difficult in their lives if I've just suddenly poof disappeared because I wanted to go have an adventure. Because adventures.
Yeah, and for now, while I'm not tied down with anything, that would be the choice I would make. I'm sure it would change if I ended up
Listen,
having
that's
children.
the choice you should make, okay? I'm not saying it should be an appalling choice for everybody, but for me personally, if I don't make it back, like if there's a real good chance that I'm not coming back and that I'm just sort of going off and being selfish for myself because I want to have this cool thing happen to me, that's not on the table for me.
Yeah. And it's understandable.
I also, we just covered a comedy last week and we're covering another one this week, but I did find this one funny. I don't think it was quite as funny to me as the other guys, but there were several times where I was laughing out loud, and I thought that especially the sequence in the conga line in the bathroom,
yeah,
particularly, and they all like do their, oh, I've got my watch the other way, the Back to the Future watch check. I'll wear my watch this way because I don't feel like I should have to lift my entire arm up to my face to be able to check what time it is. That's just me, though.
That's some laziness right there.
That's efficiency, is what that is, Tony.
Yeah, but you could burn like an extra 1/1600th of a calorie by bringing your arm up.
Oh, you know what? When I die of like clogged arteries, they're gonna be like,
that watch.
pulling his watch totally, and facing the other way.
I know. So it's just important to get those extra calories. So every 1/1600th time you check your watch, you get that one extra burn.
Feel the burn. Never skip watch checking day, guys.
Yeah, never.
But other than this is I would say a relatively simple movie, not particularly deep. I mean, the time travel stuff is well thought out, but it's not a like must see deep work of art. It's just something that's kind of fun and kind of smart, and that's it. Like, it doesn't aspire to be much else. If you're looking for like some, I'm trying to think of, I mean, last week again, to go back to, there's like some great social commentary in there about how that, the financial system is messed up and all this, and it's woven in with this other thing. Here, it's a lot more personal, and there is a message about what do you do with your life and what's important and all this other stuff, but it's really not a deep movie. It's just, you can sit down and laugh at this and have fun with it and be done with it and not really think too much about it afterwards.
Yeah, and it's a movie that follows its own rules. It doesn't do anything egregious or break it. It doesn't even particularly do anything crazy new. It's just competent, it was fun, and it's on Amazon Prime, so if you have that, go ahead and watch it.
I recommend it. Did we get any questions related to the movie, Tony?
We got one sort of related to the movie, more related to time travel than this particular movie.
Close enough.
Juice in the Morning, at Juice in the AM on Twitter asks.
Love your handle, Juice. Is that like...
It's a podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. I was
hoping it was like a juice growers, like the Got Milk campaign. They were like, drink juice.
Yeah, that's what the question's about. It's like, did you drink enough juice this morning? If you could go back in time, would you drink more juice? No. This is a podcast show that I've created to do as a hobby and for fun. I hope that what I say, my guests say, are entertaining. All right, I don't know what this podcast is about. I'm sorry. But thank you for the question.
Side rail.
He says, have you ever read the book Rant by Chuck Palahniuk? Very interesting take on time travel and all that.
I have not. Tony has, though.
Yes, I've read this book. It's been maybe 5 to 7 years since I read it, so like I'm fuzzy on some of the details, but I did enjoy how just how layered it was, and it always has that like weird Chuck Palahniuk like just different style of ideas. I liked Lullaby a little bit better, but this was also presented as an oral history.
Okay.
So it built
How does the time travel work in Rant?
I can't even remember specifically how the time travel works, only that it does, that there's like these historians that just kind of go back and alter things.
All right.
That the main character is obsessed with like getting bitten by spiders and all sorts of other things and trying to contract all these diseases.
That sounds like a Chuck Palahniuk novel.
Yeah. Like, it's... I can't remember exactly, like, the way the time travel works, only that the historian characters could do it. And that's also huge spoilers for that book, so I'm not sure if that wants to stay in. But it is an older book now.
Yeah, you know what? Editing Albert is lazy. He's going to be lazy tomorrow. He's got a lot on his plate. That's going to stay in. Sorry, guys. Rant spoiled for you.
There's a lot to like in Rant, more than that. It's also interesting reading an oral history style book from Chuck Palahniuk. Like, you wouldn't expect him to come up with that style. But as far as Rant goes, like, it's less about the time travel and more about like the characters in it. It's like the time travel seemed like it was almost secondary to everything. So
okay.
It's one to check out, but it's also one that if you're going to read any Chuck Palahniuk book, start with Lullaby and maybe just stick with that. Maybe check out Fight Club if you're into that. But Rant was pretty decent.
I would just watch the movie. Fight Club, the book, is not as good as the movie. I have it on audiobook, and I still haven't finished listening to it.
It had its moments, but I did like the way Fincher put it better.
Yeah, I'm not saying it sucks or anything. It's just, it's not as good as the movie. Sorry, it wasn't one of those very few books that the movie improved on.
Yeah, it's like The Green Mile. Also, like with Fight Club, like David Fincher always has just a really gripping visual style. I recently watched one of his for 5X movie that came out on Wednesday this week. It's Zodiac. Like, did you ever see that one? Mm-hmm. Like, I love that movie. It's a little bit long. Like, it needs to maybe have like 15, 20 minutes cut from it. But it was pretty fantastic just going back and checking it out again.
I will say that's one of the few movies that I've watched a second time and sort of changed my opinion on. Not that I hated it the first time, but I kind of found it disappointing the first time because there was like, why is there not a clear answer? I want something more climactic here. And
yeah,
realizing
but that's also real life.
Yeah, well, I think that the point was that the character, it wasn't about it wasn't about the mystery so much as it was about these people sort of ruining their own lives with this obsession about finding this guy.
Yeah, between the detectives and Grayson and just everybody involved, how crazy it got. One of the things I really did admire about that movie as well is the lengths that Fincher went to make it accurate. Like in the scene where you actually see his Zodiac killing the people at the lake, he went to the same spot on the same day of the year just to make sure that everything would look right for it, like in the exact place where the murder happened.
Wouldn't it suck if it rained?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, just completely rained out because he didn't want to do it on the schedule like 2 days earlier. But it was
like, we could just put it off till tomorrow. Nope, we're waiting a whole other year to release our movie.
You
guys aren't doing anything that year, right? You're under contract.
But even the people that survived said that it was very well done. The person who wrote the Zodiac book that came out in, I believe, '86. Like, he really enjoyed the way his character was adapted. Like, all the people involved with it that were skeptical ended up enjoying the movie too. So it's good to see whatever have somebody put so much detail into something like this. It was kind of Fincher's own obsession about a movie about obsession.
Before we get too far away from the movie, I had something that I wanted to bring up about time travel. The earliest time travel story that we know of is H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. And my first encounter with that book was one of these illustrated readers that you find. Did you ever have them when you were a kid, Tony? Like, it was classic books, but they were real dumbed down and they had pictures on every page.
Yeah, I remember we had like a version of Moby Dick. We had a few others like that in the school library.
Right. Which is, I'm not knocking that at all. I got my start in my understanding of several of the classics, some of them which I haven't even read yet in those books. And that was a problem in the Time Machine one. The great illustrated classics version of the Time Machine. Have I talked about this before, Tony?
I don't recall.
I feel like I brought it up at some point. But
we've also had 249 episodes, so I might not have been listening.
This book has a chapter in it that's completely made up. They make up a chapter where the time traveler goes to the future and sees what people are doing with his time machines and how there are like time wars and stuff. I believed that was in the original book for so long.
I hate to tell you this, Al, but it's all made up.
Well, no, but here's the thing. So I read there's the sequel to the Time Machine written by, I forget who wrote it, the Time Ships. Dag nabbit, I don't know. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I have the Googles. The Time Ships, written by Stephen Baxter. Great book, really great book. Explores, like, takes the style of that and also adapts a bunch of H.G. Wells concepts into sort of this time machine type thing where this guy travels through alternate histories as he's bouncing around in the time machine, and it's great. But there was a part of me as I was listening to that, because I'd never read the original Time Machine, where because I think it was an audiobook that I was listening to, and I was sitting here thinking, when are you going to reference this future thing where they went in the time machines and like had multiple, like 10 guys in one machine and they were going off to fight other people, and like, where's that at? Because I thought that was in the real book, and it wasn't. It was not in the real book.
So does that disappoint you because you like the idea, or are you mad that they messed with Jules Verne's, like, or
H.G. Wells?
H.G. Wells, excuse me.
That's fine.
Did you, so you were mad that it wasn't in there because you thought it was a good idea, not because they shouldn't be messing with H.G. Wells' work?
Well, I mean, looking back on it, I can say, yeah, y'all shouldn't have been messing with H.G. Wells' work. Why did you put that in there? But that idea of time travel becoming, like, widely adopted and sort of, because every single time travel movie you ever see, except for, like, occasionally they'll have, but you have to start hand-waving a lot of stuff. But if there's never a time travel story that I've seen that uses widespread time travel with strict time manipulation rules, where everybody gets a time machine, and or even just like multiple governments have time machines and they're using them to compete against each other or something. And this sparked that idea in my head. I thought about, like, what happens if you have like 5 or 8 people who have time machines and they're going back and they're not the same time machine. Like, they can go back and make competing changes, and what happens if that technology spreads, and all of those questions, it spread up in my mind. I still, like, it would take an insanely complicated plot for any of that to even become close to make sense. That's why most time travel stories are just like 1 or 2 people. But even so, like, that idea sprang from this, like, whatever the author of this adaptation was, just like throwing, you know what, I want to write a chapter of the Time Machine. Nobody's going to notice. Here I go. I'm throwing it in there. Editor's like, yeah, that sounds fine. I don't remember. Time Machine? What? Yeah, that was a good book. Bye. We're going to publish it now.
And it's kids' books. They'll never know.
I never did! Not for 20 years, I didn't know. Sorry, my voice is going. I shouldn't yell, but very formative moment. What?
You don't need a voice. You're only making like 6 videos this week.
Yep. Yep, new stuff coming, by the way. Lord willing and the creek don't rise and the show doesn't suck. I'm going to be covering Sci-Fi's new series, Blood Drive. So that actually, by the time you hear or watch this, should be out. Looking forward to checking that out. About cars that run on human blood.
And if Al hates it, it will never happen. So if you don't see that, you understand what that show is.
Yep. We talked about it last week, so we don't need to get into depth. I think that it is time, though, to get in depth with a trailer, a talk.
Okay. What are we starting out with? Black Panther?
You picked, Tony.
All right, let's go with Black Panther.
This one. Starting out with Black Panther.
Which, it's awesome because it starts out with Bilbo talking to Gollum. Like, it was a little bit jarring to see that, you know? Nice little crossover.
I know that everybody's made that joke, but just sort of within the Marvel Universe, I like that they brought those 2 characters back. Ulysses Klaw made his first appearance in Ultron. He's just sort of like a 2-bit henchman who's kind of like got some kind of, you know, connection to vibranium, which is a big deal. It used to, in the original comics, it's not vibranium. What is it?
Adamantium.
Adamantium, yes. But they've adapted it here because they don't have rights for adamantium because of Fox, which is fine. So magic metal in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and apparently Wakanda has a lot of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only place that has any of it. And everybody thinks Wakanda is like a 3rd world country, but really there's like some hidden city deep inside of it.
So I'm very interested in the aesthetic of this trailer. The sort of like taking of like a traditional tribal African garb and incorporating it into this futuristic society, that's a great look. But the premise kind of makes me just like a little bit skeptical. I don't know how they were supposedly able to hide this massive technologically advanced civilization from everything else in the world, and why it didn't take over everything. We have like Google Earth,
you know. I'm sure they'll hand wave it and be like, well, we put this over the top of the city so nothing can see it.
Like the visual is the least of my problems.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you keep the secret, like, and how do you keep people from, if you are that civilization, you have essentially spaceships and unbreakable metal, why don't you just go and take over the world? Who's stopping you? Why aren't you the dominant,
because they're good people.
Country? I guess. They're not all good people, because the bad guys in this video appear to be from the same place. Like they're wearing, different tribal masks, and you see people with different types of tribal type robes fighting each other. I'm sure Ulysses Klaw, the sort of white guy coming in from the outside, will be part of the plot, but it seems like everybody, or the majority of the people in the movie, including the antagonists, are from Wakanda.
Yeah, it looks to be a fairly localized movie. It also looks like it's going to have a bigger team aspect than I expected. It's got a little bit of the vibe from like the first Thor movie where he had all the other people he was working with.
Yeah, that's definitely cool too. The thing is, I remember, you saw the end of The Winter Soldier where they have Bucky kind of being sedated again, put into cryo sleep, and you sort of pan out the outside and you see the giant statue, but I wish that they'd been a little bit more overt with the, hey, we've got a secret city that nobody knows about and there's awesome technology here. Whereas just the giant statue made me think like, well, they have a nice hospital and there's a cool statue outside.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
And with the way they were treated by the delegation at the UN or whatever, it made them seem like they were bigger players on the world stage. So it seems a little bit weird to just wipe them off and make them like mostly a third world country.
I can buy into some of that. Like, the UN is not about, like, well, you're not important. I mean, the point is for sort of all the countries to have a voice. So him showing up and having his say there did not seem that out of place to me. This trailer has the American guy, played by the British guy, being dismissive of Wakanda, but he might be over-exaggerating a little bit.
Yeah, Martin Freeman's character isn't exactly like a nice guy either.
Yeah. And there was some cool action that... I know somebody in the comments, I think, was like, well, we've seen a car flip over before. I forget where I was reading those comments at. But the way that shot is filmed with the one take... And I guess it's probably all CG, which makes it slightly less impressive. But still, like, seeing him flip over, like, up into the air and tracking him down where he lands on another car, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, except the CGI was dog shit.
Yeah, like on that particular shot, you thought?
On that singular shot, the CGI looked terrible. Like, it just looked unfinished. Like,
I didn't have the problem with it, but
I was looking at it, like, in 1080p, so I think it might have just been, like... It might have just been needing some extra texture work. Like, I think they'll end up getting it right, but it kind of reminded me of the first time I saw, like, Spider-Man Homecoming, where a few sequences looked like it wasn't really a person.
Well, they're not... I mean, they aren't finished with the movie yet, so hopefully they'll get there.
Yeah, this is coming out in 2018, like early 2018?
Yeah.
So they got some
Thor
time.
Ragnarok is still a little bit of ways away, so we got to wait, but... It looks cool. It looks like, and once again, we see Marvel, I think, going into a little bit more of a different singular vision for each of their films and letting these directors kind of paint on their own tapestry in their own way. James Gunn coming out with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, really putting his stamp on that. And here we have, not Chadwick Boseman, he's in it. He's the director.
Ryan Coogler.
Yes. Bringing this...
he's the one who did Creed and various other things right now. Yeah, mostly Creed is probably his biggest movie before this, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard that movie was fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm excited for what this is going to look like. This seems like I've been hearing a lot, maybe not a lot, but recently on the Better Call Saul Insider podcast, they had the costume designer on just for that show, which is 90% just people in suits and stuff. but hearing someone whose art is to think about the clothes that people wear and what that says about them as a character, and also how it's going to look on screen and all of that stuff, and is really good at it, like, that's a really underappreciated piece of all filmmaking. And to see such lavish costumes popping up in this that are historically based and also like look really great on screen and have a purpose within this whole story, I wonder if there's a shot at this getting some costuming awards in the Oscars.
There's a pretty decent shot. Like, have any of the Marvel movies actually won Oscars yet? Like, other than effects stuff?
I don't think so. And we've talked about this in the past, right? That, like, obviously the costumes of the heroes are designed in a certain way by costume designers, and not to diminish that work at all, but a lot of times when a movie wins, it's the costumes that are like the whole cast has to be costumed, and so that's what they're looking at. A lot of times historical
you're looking at like a
pieces.
Pride and Prejudice type thing. Right.
But while this is not a historical piece, it does have historical elements to the costumes being considered along with everything else. And I don't know, I guess I just really wanted to say props to costume designers. I didn't realize how much work you guys did. And I recommend, just in general, if you're interested in the science of movie making, not science, that's absolutely not the word. Although
there's probably a decent science to it, like whenever you just factor everything in. Like, if you could use that term.
If you're looking at digging into the nuts and bolts of filmmaking, check out both Breaking Bad Insider Podcast and the Better Call Saul Insider Podcast, because both of those go into detail. They're not, I mean, they'll recap the episode a little bit and talk about this is what was difficult to shoot, but each episode is them like highlighting a different part of the profession, especially in the Better Call Saul Insider Podcasts, where they'll say, okay, what does the assistant director do? Here's what that person does. What does the casting director do? Here's what they do. And it goes really granular and gives you an inside look into all of the stuff that makes that show work. And especially this most recent season of that podcast has been fantastic. Really enjoying that as someone who likes to get into the nitty gritty of filmmaking. So,
well, they also, like, they have access to all the creators, right? Like, a lot of times you'll hear Vince Gilligan on there, or Bob Odenkirk, or
Vince Gilligan's on every one. Okay. Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould are in every episode, I think, of all of them. Kelly Dixon is sort of the showrunner of that podcast, but Vince Gilligan's always there answering questions, and he will ask, you know, and it's not, again, so many different things you don't think about. They talk about the writer's room. They talk about, you know, the set design, just so many different little elements of filmmaking that, because it's sort of intended to be invisible, you don't think about. And they really, it's like a little mini film school. So in audio form, I think it's very cool. And it follows along with the different episodes and talks about how they did different stuff. So very, very cool.
How has this season been? I'm still on the first season. I've got one episode left in the first season, and I've been there for like 2 years.
I just finished. I did the recap for episode 9, and wow, Jimmy. First of all, I want to say Jimmy McGill, what a scumbag! Like, I hate you, Saul Goodman. You in this episode, like, you kind of lost me in episode 7 with the Chuck thing. Okay. But you really lost me. Like, I'll still watch the show. I'm not like, I don't like the show anymore because the characters are bad. But there was this thing in Breaking Bad where as the show progressed, Walt got worse and worse and worse, you know, and sort of spiraled. But you kind of saw that he always was that character at some level. He always had that pride. He always had that inability to let go. And it, you know, sort of, all of the circumstances combined with that character brought it out in him, and they're really doing that again with Jimmy, but not like in a, well, we've seen this before. Just there was a thing that Jimmy did in this episode that is the second worst thing I've seen done on television, as far as just because Unreal season 2 episode 3 is still top for me. Like that's worse than anything I've ever seen on Game of Thrones or anything. Like from a human impact standpoint, I love Unreal, by the way. I should talk about that at some point. But Jimmy working his disgusting magic in this most episode 9 of Better Call Saul, like, really turned me off to that character as somebody who I can cheer for and be like, yeah, I want him to win. Like, he's going to turn into Saul Goodman, and he's going to get screwed over by Walt, and he's going to end up in Omaha, and he deserves it.
I forgot that that's how the entire series for like Better Call Saul started. He's like working at a pretzel hut or something.
Yeah. Anyway, I do like that they talk about how that, and I've seen this, right? That the fans will latch on to whoever's the hero, and anybody who's even in minor, like, resistance to the hero is just hated. Like, Skylar got that in Breaking Bad, because, not because she was a bad person, but just because she had, like, different interests than Walt did and pursued them differently, and the fan base just loathed Skylar. And this, I think that caught them a little bit by surprise in Breaking Bad. In Better Call Saul, they were like, all right, Chuck, we understand. People are just going to hate this guy. But it's weird to see people coming to Jimmy's defense even now with some of the stuff he's doing. Like, well, you know, like he's helping, technically he's helping these people out. It might not be like the greatest way to do it, but I just, all those people need to be quiet and go home, is what I think.
Al wants to censor the internet.
No, I mean, everybody's welcome to their opinion, but my opinion is, shut up.
You should just type that out next time you're on Reddit, see how that goes over.
Next up in trailer talk, we have Flatliners, the remake that they're doing with Ellen Page, about people who kill themselves and come back on purpose, trying to, I guess, figure out the mysteries of death and also get super cool powers of some kind.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on the powers. I could almost understand, like, when they're like, you need to stop my heart for 1 minute because I want to see if there's anything after death. But I'm still not entirely sure how that relates to them being able to, like, control radios and see all sorts of crazy things, like, coming after them. But hey, why not? Admission
time here, I haven't seen the original.
I was actually going to ask if this was a remake, because I thought I'd heard the name Flatliners before.
Oh, okay, so you didn't even know that. Tony also has not seen the original, apparently.
1990 with Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, and William Baldwin.
Supposedly, this is like a requel kind of thing. It's sort of like the cabin, maybe a little bit more overt than the not Cabin in the Woods, dag nabbit. I always make that mistake. The new Evil Dead. Sort of like that, only maybe a little bit more overt, where Kiefer Sutherland apparently is going to come in as a character and talk to them about when he did it back in the day and how they need to watch out or something. I don't know. Again, I haven't seen the original, so it's, I don't know all the specifics on that, but this particular trailer was fine. I liked some of the stuff with, Ellen Page's character, and I liked the competitive thing that they showed, where everybody's wanting to go like for longer and longer and longer, and how that's inevitably going to lead to somebody not coming back. So that was interesting.
Yeah, with this movie, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if I was actually interested or not. Like, I watched the trailer, I was like, this has cool effects. I kind of like some of the actors, like, Ellen Page is cool. But I didn't, like, get any sort of real feel for this movie. It was really odd to me.
Yeah, I put this on just mostly, I guess, partly because I thought maybe you had seen the original and you would have more of a visceral reaction. It's not a great trailer. That's not why I have it on the list, because I think it's amazing. But I thought it was worth talking about because of kind of the line that it's walking here, where it looks good, and it has, like you said, it has good actors in it. It has some interesting concepts that it stole from the original, obviously. But I too was not, like, ecstatic over the moon about this. I didn't hate it. I know there's a lot of people who are going to want, why do they always remaking movies? They don't got any original ideas. Stupid. Pass. I'm not on that boat, but this trailer just kind of left me, like, exactly in the same boat that I was in to start with, which is not disinterested, but not interested either. Just,
that's just Joel Schumacher.
That's a movie that exists. Is Joel Schumacher directing this?
Yep. No, he directed the original. Excuse me.
Oh, I was gonna say. It's a classic apparently, so maybe that was his last good work. He got on the Batman train, and everybody was like, "Oh."
He did a couple episodes of House of Cards, apparently.
Okay.
I'm not sure what else he's done recently. I'm pulling it up right now, but so much of his stuff just gets sloppy. Phone Booth was okay. Yeah,
I like Phone Booth. I'll give Phone Booth a pass.
Number 23 was mediocre.
Yeah, man, that had so much potential. I really want to see crazy Jim Carrey do good at some point. Number 23, guys. Why wasn't it good?
Overacting? I don't know. Like that movie had potential, but it just got weird.
Yeah, it got too weird. It got like there was like too many twists. It was too much stuff. Like either make this guy crazy or make the number actually be magic. But then the stuff that they revealed that had really nothing to do with the numerology stuff is just sort of. I remember very little of it. I remember being like, why was it that complicated, or not complicated and not, like this? I don't want to. I won't say what the twist was, but it was dumb. It was real dumb.
Well, considering how the movie did, I think you're probably not the only one with that opinion.
The final trailer we have to talk about today is Kidnap, which is Taken, but with Halle Berry in it.
Yes. Huh? It's not the final trailer, but yes.
Oh, that's true. We have a bonus trailer.
But yeah, this is Halle Berry watching her kid get stolen and then basically going on a rampage to get him back.
Yeah, this could be sort of generic direct-to-DVD action fare. All right? I don't know if it's going to be great, but there was something really compelling about her, like, just insatiable drive to bring this guy to justice and get her kid back.
Yeah, especially because like there's a scene where she walks into the police station and they're like, if you want to stay here, we can file a report right now. And she's like, well, all these people who lost their children just waited here and filed a report. I'm going after them.
That was the moment for me too, where I was like, I'm on board with this lady. She's like, this is crazy action movie logic, but as crazy movie logic, I'm on board with it.
Yeah.
Back on the road.
But she's also not as competent as like the guy from Taken, so it's a little bit more of a risk. There's a lot more going on here for just like a normal woman trying to get her kid back. So that's also interesting with it too.
And there's some, like, it seems like from the trailers anyway, it looks like a lot of the action happens on the road. Like she's chasing this guy down, and it's cool because she's like in a minivan and like sliding those minivan doors open, getting that Mr. and Mrs. Smith action going with the minivan, sort of highlighting that particular vehicle's various strengths. So I think that this could be worth a watch. I'm not going to say that I'm like, oh man,
yeah, I'm not.
This came out of nowhere. I've got to see it.
Not pumped for it, but I would definitely watch it if it was like at the cheap theater in town or if it hits Netflix.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Here's what I'm hoping for. If this hits at like 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if it doesn't get a wide release, like I will check this out in the red box. That's where I'm at with this movie. I'm not like, it's not suddenly rocketed to my top 10 and most anticipated or anything, but it did a good job of selling this movie. And I'm not always in the mood for this movie, but when I am in the mood for this movie, I think I might reach for it.
Yeah. And that brings us to a movie that nobody should reach for.
The official teaser trailer, Tony, of Behind the Sightings.
You guys remember back in 2016 when people were doing the clown costume thing around election time? Or I don't even know if it was around election time.
I think it was around the primaries.
Yeah, primaries. Hell, they decided to make a movie about this because why not? And
because they weren't good at making movies, they decided to make it a found footage film. About clowns. About a really stupid looking clown, by the way.
Yeah, some non-scary looking clowns. This isn't like Killer Clowns from Outer Space where they're at least kind of like Uncanny Valley crazy weird. Or like It where they're actually scary looking clowns. They're just like generic clowns with like maybe a little bit more like around the teeth.
Well, like the main clown guy, it doesn't even look like clown makeup. It looks like they put a mask on him. Like, that's not a clown.
Yeah, it reminds me of the mask from the beginning of The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. He's got, well, it's a little bit more blue though, and it's got like pieces protruding in different places. It doesn't, I mean, I'm not scared of clowns, so it's not for me anyway.
Yeah.
But it seems really poorly done. I mean, they have like 3 lines in this trailer. One of them is, there have been more than hundreds of sightings. Like the guy says the words, more than hundreds. Okay? You either want to say more than 100, which I would be fine with, or thousands. Okay?
Or you could just say hundreds of sightings.
Or that. Or that. Like, the fact that they didn't bother to do an extra take for the line that they included in the trailer that the guy obviously whiffed is real concerning. And then, like, at the end of the trailer, after they've, you know, been jump scared by the clown, oh no, the lady screams, "And this isn't funny anymore!"
Like, I want to think that this movie might have some good camp value, but I just don't see it. Like, I was kind of expecting to at least get, like, a tiny bit of a jump scare whenever they did it, but it's just like, oh yeah, it's a dude in a clown suit. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. It's laziness. Like, I have not always said I will be on board for the right kind of found footage movie. I'm not ever going to write off an entire way of making films. But it lends itself so often to laziness, and I am getting nothing but that from this movie. I think that, like, it's a smart move for these people to come out and make a clown movie. I think that they're a little bit slow on the uptake. They needed to, like, make this in the 2 weeks that apparently it took to make it and then put it out right away.
Because it doesn't seem like there was a lot of time put into this movie. Like, they might have rushed it to try to make that, but then couldn't get distribution or something.
Yeah, I like how in... Sorry, go ahead.
Or they just, you know, spent the whole year getting that script, like, down to a razor's edge and just perfect.
I just, like, they had a whole writer's room. People like, guys, we're close, but the final scene needs more polish.
It's like 15 people in a room just, like, smoking cigarettes and just forgetting about their families.
Like, drinking, like soup mug-sized cups of coffee. Almost there. Almost there.
You got some guy in the back just pouring whiskey into his giant mug.
Glug. No, he's drinking right out of the bottle, Tony.
That's true. At this point, he doesn't even care anymore.
After the third week of this intense writing sesh that they had going on, he's
and
like,
that was just on the intro of the movie too.
Yeah. No, that they spent all that time on the one line at the beginning, and they're like, okay, we've got it. And then, like, it did, like, the logjam broke open, and they were able to get the rest of the film finished in like 6 months. But it was heavy work for a while there. So props to them for getting out clown movie.
Behind the sightings.
Literally in the title of the trailer, it's got in all caps, found footage clowns, for that extra strong SEO option.
I'm seeing all these sites that are posting it right now. It's like, behind the sightings is like Blair Witch, but with terrifying clowns. And it's like, oh yeah, it's a found footage movie. But they're saying about how it's going to give you nightmares. There's so many clickbait titles.
Are they paying people to link this?
I mean,
is that what's going on?
They very well could be, considering that we've been paid to, like, put a link in the link dump before.
Yeah, but we don't do it like that.
Yeah.
We're just like, we talked about a thing. Here it is. You know, we'll mention it. I don't think we've ever done it in an inorganic way. Whereas we've never made up an opinion for money. That's not a thing that we've ever done.
Yeah.
We've linked to things for money because, you know, apparently having a link back gives you better SEO, and we understand all that. Although we haven't done it very often. Yeah, I don't want people thinking that the link dump is like some weird cash cow for us. It's just very occasionally somebody's like, here's $20, link to.
Actually, it's like $50 for just putting a link in the link dump. I'm sorry, but I'm not above that.
Tony's not sorry.
Sorry,
you heard it here first.
I'm not Canadian enough for you.
My voice is going, Tony. I'm all crackly and wobbles.
Just full wobbles. Weeble wobbling.
Yeah. Should we end a little bit early?
I think so.
We ended early last week, but that's fine.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it for this week. Next week, we're actually going to be back with a movie we've been talking about since the inception of this podcast. For episode 250, we're going to be talking about The Godfather.
Yep. You guys have been asking for it. We're going to talk about it, finally.
I want to see what you guys are giving the over-under on Al hating it is. I want to see, like, some side bets happening, and we'll get back to it next Friday. Before then, if you want to become a member of the Human Echoes podcast to get all the awesome benefits of membership, such as pins, the bonus podcast, early access to different products, you should go to humanechoes.com, click that Become a Member link, starts at $2, goes up from there, and yeah, we would really appreciate that. If you have some shopping to do on Amazon as well, if you click the affiliate link at the top of the Human Echoes page, that will send you directly, or that will get a cookie put in your browser, and for the next 24 hours, we will get a cut of whatever you buy. It doesn't cost you anything extra, just help support the podcast.
And that will do it for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching, and we'll see you guys next week with another episode of the Human Echoes podcast.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.